Hello, everyone. My name is Charles, and in today's video, we are going to talk about action. Today, we're going to talk about action and how to best perform action. Okay, at least, the best way that I know how. And action bears fruits in terms of the results, right? If we want to create a dream, a success, study for something, learn a skill, a trade, whatever it is, it all requires action. And how do we get the best possible action? That is the question. And I'm going to be working this out with you today, alongside you, right? Come along for the journey. So, okay, here we are, right? Action. How do we do action? So, with action, right? With action. Okay, suppose, right? There's a lot of like self-help out there, or people who will be like, let's say you have to study, right? You have to study for all this stuff in school. You got to study for a math test. And you're like, man, how do I study for a math test? Like, oh, let me procrastinate. This is boring. I don't want to do this. There's all this inertia. You're like, dude, this is way too much work and time. Like fuck this, dude. This is boring. I don't want to do this, right? That's the action, or that's the thought process, right? You have a bunch of thoughts. Imagine this is your head. You have a bunch of thoughts churning, chatter in the skull that says like, this is boring. I don't want to do this. Yada yada yada. And so you're thinking that you're going to outthink your solution. That somehow the brain that you are. And in other words, right, if we say, right, that I need to fix my brain, right, or I'm lazy and I need to fix my brain or fix myself, right, the same brain that is saying I need to fix myself is the same brain that is procrastinating on the homework. So then you're like, well, Charles, if it's the same brain, like the question is, right, if it's the same brain that's saying I need to fix this quality or trait, I need to fix my brain, I need to fix my laziness, I need to fix this or that. All right, if you're saying I need to fix this, right, that's the same brain that is procrastinating. So the same brain that is saying I need to fix myself is the same brain that has the issue. So if it's the same brain, then you're not going to solve the issue, right? You don't need to fix yourself. The realization, right, is I am enough. Okay, so let's suppose you say I am enough. I am enough. Or I have enough. Or I experience enough. I am enough, right? I actually don't need to fix myself, right? There, you do not need to fix yourself. So maybe, right, and this is kind of a weird lens to think about it, right? Because if you're like, Charles, I'm procrastinating on my homework, watching your YouTube video, or I'm procrastinating on a work responsibility. I'm procrastinating on, whatever it may be, right? Whatever this task is, let's just say imaginary task, you're like, I am procrastinating, and I'm watching your YouTube video. All right, the thing is if you have the mindset that you don't need to fix yourself, that you are enough, that there is nothing inherently wrong with you, right? Then in that moment, you have the energy, you have realizing that how you are being right now is not an issue, right? That there's nothing fundamentally wrong with your brain or mind or body or yada yada. Then in those moments, you're like, oh wow, I have the energy to take the next step. And you're like, Charles, how does that work? Just because I say I am enough, right? How does that mean I can do what I need to do? It's because you realize that in that moment, when you say I have enough or I am enough or I'm experiencing enough, there's nothing wrong with the present moment. What did we do in the initial analogy? Okay, and I'm going to simplify this to make it nice and easy to understand. So this is your brain with all these thoughts, with all these thoughts, with all these thoughts, with all these thoughts, right? And when do thoughts happen? Can thoughts happen? Just take a moment, right? Sit here, pause, and be like, okay, let me listen to my thoughts. What's arising in my head? And then realize, or ask yourself, Are all my thoughts that are arising in my head, are they happening? When are they happening? When does a thought come? Is it happening now? Is it related to now? How long does a thought last? Right? Where are these thoughts? So just start probing, inquiring into your thoughts. When are they coming? What is this thought? Where did this thought come from? Suppose you have the thought, I am lazy, right? Where did that thought come from? Is that your thought? Where are these thoughts coming from? And okay, so now you might be like, Charles, how does this solve my procrastination? How does this help my action, right? Because if you're able to realize that these thoughts that arise, essentially the same way that the heart beats, the mind thinks. So thoughts are just kind of percolating in your consciousness without cessation for most people. It's just thought and thought and thought. And sometimes you get a thought that you're the thinker of your thoughts, and then another thought comes, and then you're the decider of your thoughts, and just more thoughts. It's just a perpetual thought, and thoughts just percolate in your mind. Imagine when people say like, oh, I couldn't get a good night's sleep last night, right? And you're like, why not, dude? And they're like, my mind just wouldn't quiet down. I just had too many thoughts, right? Do you think they consciously chose to be like, oh, next thought arise, next thought arise, next thought arise? No, the thoughts just kind of percolate the same way the heart beats. And so if you realize that, then those natural percolations, right, those natural, functionings of the mind and brain that the thoughts just pop up, you realize, wait just a minute, that those natural percolating thoughts that are telling me I'm lazy, this is boring, right? Or homework is boring, right? Those same thoughts that are just naturally percolating say the homework is boring. Homework is boring. I don't want to do my math homework, right? So where do you solve that? If you want to get beyond the same brain that is saying the homework is boring, where is that? Right now, the present moment. This very moment, not in thought, right? Beyond thought. Some metacognition is what is required. And the way we are best metacognitive, and people are like, well, what does that mean, right? I don't understand what he's saying. Okay. To be very, very, to make it make more sense, the thoughts that are naturally percolating, that are like, I'm lazy, homework is boring, I don't want to do this task, I don't want to, work out, I don't want to do this, right? Those thoughts that just naturally percolate, I want to do this, I want to eat that, I want to do that, all the thoughts that just bubble up in our mind without cessation, right? You want to know how you get beyond those? Is not by fighting those thoughts. You're not gonna fight those thoughts. You're not gonna give attention to them. You're just gonna enter the present moment. And the way you enter the present, when you're in the present moment, right here, right now, you're beyond the cogitation, or you're beyond the mind, so to speak, in the sense that, right now, fundamentally, there's no issue with your mind. If you are right here, right now. That's the best way to explain this, because a lot of people aren't going to understand this, I don't think. Okay. What's the best analogy? Okay. So, suppose you're walking, right? This is actually a good analogy, or a good description. Suppose you are walking, right? And you are walking, and this is your thought bubble. And your thought bubble says, I'm tired. I'm tired. And you're like, I'm tired. I don't want to keep walking. Okay? And you take another step, right? You, in the present moment, took another step. You performed action irrespective. So you didn't have to say, right? If you're on a walk and your thought, your brain bubbles up with the thought or the feeling that I am tired, and you take another step, did you have to kill that thought? Did you have to distract yourself from that thought? Did you have to force that thought away? Did you have to fix your brain? Did you have to do all the rigmarole that says like, oh, I'm flawed? Da, da, da. No, dude. You just had to take another step, you know? If you, let's say you want to get to the store. This is the grocery store. Grocery store, right? And you have the thought halfway through. This is halfway through. Halfway through, you have the thought and feeling that I am tired. Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to keep walking. Do you have to solve your thought? Like, do you have to solve that feeling? I know it sounds ridiculous, but think about it. If you have the thought and feeling, I am tired halfway through the walk, do you have to do anything about that thought or feeling? No. You just have to keep walking. Once you keep walking, where do you get? You get to the store. In the present moment, you don't have to solve anything that's going on in your head. You just have to keep performing the behaviors, or you just have to do stuff. And so in the same way, I know it sounds like crazy, like, well, I can't focus, I could, or all these things, right? There's so many things, you know, condition, this, all this, right, that our brain will come up with. We're like, we need to solve our brain, that somehow our brain is flawed, that somehow our brain needs to be fixed. And it's like, you know, the actual, or one of the best ways to get beyond those thoughts, to transcend those thoughts, is to not do anything about them and just perform the action anyways. Because the thoughts will naturally shift. Let's say you're like, you know what, I don't like working out. Right? I do not like working out. Working out is tiring and it's boring. And I don't like working out, right? You don't like lifting the dumbbells. Now, if lifting the dumbbells makes you feel good, right? And you start doing it, and irrespective of what your mind tells you, the mind could be spewing all sorts of things. And you just lift the dumbbell anyways. And over time, it starts releasing, you know, the good feelings, the endorphins, you start gaining muscle, whatever it is, right? Then you're feeling good anyways, and you know what your brain will probably naturally pop up? I really like working out. Working out's enjoyable. It makes me feel good. So that's just like with everything. You don't have to solve the current problem by attending to it, by fixing your brain. You just do the stuff in spite of what's going on mentally, and then naturally the feelings follow. Does that make sense to everyone? That you don't have to fix your feelings. You don't have to fix your thoughts. There is nothing wrong with the way you think, feel, right? Any of those, the way you think and feel is completely valid, is completely understandable. You do not have to fix any of it. And at the same time, there is right action and wrong action. So if you just perform the right action, the feelings and thoughts follow. So you don't actually have to solve your brain. You just do the right stuff and the feelings follow. Hopefully that makes sense. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And until next time, this has been Charles.